I said last night, too many people now play the race card, play the victim, see racism where none perhaps exists. And today there's another example, in my opinion. Now, I've seen many newspapers having to apologise for running a wrong photo, including one which unbelievably ran a picture of an unrelated man on its front page, claiming he was the son of serial killer Freddie West. But when Who magazine this week ran a photograph of the wrong model to illustrate a feature on a Sudanese-born model, Abdul Akech, the ABC and her claimed that she was a victim not of a stupid mistake but of racism. Here's Akech on the ABC today.
My entire race was disrespected.
No one would publish a photo of Margot Robbie if it was an article about Nicole Kidman, would they?
Exactly, and that's the point that I'm trying to make there. So it is racist, and as much as people can say it's a human error, it's a human error that doesn't usually happen to to white models. This is not the first time I've had a racist incident happen to me in Australia. Australia needs to do so much better.
Everyone's now gone to crisis mode. Melbourne's Lord Mayor has apologised personally to Akech on behalf of the community for what she calls an act of discrimination. Who magazine's apologised. The company which mishandled the images, confused her with the Ugandan-born model, has apologised too for what it says was just an administrative error. And the ABC is once again denouncing Australia's racist. But I have to wonder if Akech perhaps needs to get over her ego. And I do also wonder why so many Australians get so high in denouncing other Australians as racist on zero evidence. Consider these facts. Akech and her family were accepted into Australia as refugees. That doesn't seem very racist of us. Akech was made ambassador for Melbourne Fashion Week, although she's just 19. That too doesn't seem very racist of us. And Who magazine decided to do a flattering profile of her. Now, is that racist? And as for all Africans looking alike to some people, that may be an unfortunate but human reaction based on unfamiliarity with people of different race or culture. People tend to look at the most obvious distinguishing feature, and in this case, their blackness. It's not racist, not hostile, it's just an unfamiliarity. And not surprising, I mean, have a look at the picture of the wrong model on the left. That's Flavia Lazarus from Uganda and Akech on the right. Now, Lazarus is holding an unnatural pose that makes it a little harder to identify her. And on a casual look, you might well mistake her for Akech on the right if you're being told they were the same person. Now, I was joined a short time ago by Gerard Henderson, head of the Sydney Institute, columnist for the Australian newspaper, and author of the Media Watchdog blog. Gerard Henderson, thank you so much for your time. Is this mistake, just running the wrong picture, an example of racism?
Well, no, it's just an example of a mistake. It happens frequently in the print media and other media where names are put against faces and they're not correct. It happens with Anglo-Celts, it happens with people of colour, it happens all the time. It's not unusual. It happens in this country, it happens in other countries. In my Media Watchdog blog, I'm careful not to jump on these kind of errors because I'm conscious that we all make them, myself included, over time, and just got to accept them as mistakes. And it's just an example here of some alienated ABC journalist beating it up as an example of some kind of racism here, but it's just an example of some kind of a mistake.
Well, it gets me, this immediate attempt to try to make Australia seem racist from this isolated mistake. I mean, given the fact that the model involved, her family, a black family from Africa, was brought here as refugees. That's not racist. She was made the face of the Melbourne Fashion Week, despite being only 19. That doesn't seem to me racist. And Vogue intended to make her the hero of this feature in the magazine. That doesn't seem racist either. I mean, why the immediate assumption that Australia must be racist?
Well, among the commentary class, there are a lot of alienated people, and they're alienated with their own society, and they feel upset about their own society, and they project it onto others. But Australia, as you know, we take a higher proportion on a per capita basis of refugees and asylum seekers than any other nation, except perhaps Canada. They're welcomed here, like the model in question. They succeed here, and they will continue to succeed here as models, as sports players, as people in business, as intellectuals and others. And that's what we should be recognising. But this is just a simple mistake which is blown up into some kind of example of racism, and then the Lord Mayor gets involved and someone else gets involved. It's just an error. It's just a common howler, and there'll be more of them, and we all try to stop them, but none of us can. And I mean, I've seen in recent times sports figures, prominent sport figures have been given the wrong name under their photograph. I haven't used it. I've understood it's just some kind of production mistake, and I think we ought to cool it a bit. I mean, this idea that this is a racist country, you would only say that if you'd never been to a truly racist country.
The ABC's presenters, by the way, Gerard, seem absolutely fixated on Sky News, and I've given many examples over the journey of just how often they focus on us and obsess about us, particularly presenters like me that are on after 6 p.m, Peter Credlin, Paul Murray, etc. You know, that is absolutely curious. Seems bizarre to me, given the ludicrously false claim made last night by ABC presenter Tony Jones on Q&A, along with Labor frontbencher and former Sky News host Christina Keneally. Have a listen.
You know, look at Sky News After Dark. That platform is growing in Australia, and so it's incumbent that we are having.
It's growing to a very small audience.
Well, yes.
I mean, you know, you're probably talking about 5,000 people watching at that time. But anyway, let's. They can correct me on that. That's a fact check you can do, Sky.
I used to work for Sky. I probably could fact check you right here, but I won't.
Now, Gerard, Jones is out there by a factor of 15 at the very least. My show last night had 62,000 viewers just on Sky alone, not including the audience on Win TV as well. What did you make of Jones's mistake or falsehood?
Well, I was watching it. I mean, here you're dealing with one of the ABC's most senior presenters. The ABC is focusing a lot on Sky News. It was through many programs in news and current affairs. And he has not the slightest idea of Sky News' ratings. I mean, he's out by a factor of 10 to a factor of about 15 at least, maybe more. And it's one thing to make a false allegation. It's another thing to make a false allegation on the basis of ignorance when the figures are readily available. So what you've got here is really an example of prejudice, not an example of analysis. It's just a bland assertion given to a national audience, which is completely false. And if it's corrected in the usual ABC manner, you'll see a clarifications and corrections on the web page, which won't even mention that Tony Jones made the error. I mean, this should be corrected next Monday at the top of the Q&A program. That's where the correction should appear, because it's commercially damaging, it's unprofessional, and it's simply wrong.
Mate, you're almost as old as me, I think, maybe even older, and you're still so naive as to believe that'll be corrected. I bet you a quiet $10 it won't be. What did you make, though, of Christina Keneally's refusal to correct him? She knows those are false. I know her own ratings on Sky were abysmally low, but she would know that the ratings of those after 6 p.m. are pretty good and have been increasing by the year. Why didn't she correct him?
Well, they're very good for pay TV. News and current affairs, because we're not, for the most part, we're not dealing with free-to-air, although Sky now goes out on a couple of commercial channels outside of the capital cities. She should have corrected it. I think the reason why Ms Keneally didn't correct it is she didn't really want to contradict Tony Jones, and she didn't want to get herself offside with the audience, which by and large was being critical of you and Ellen Jones. I mean, in the normal ABC way. She didn't want to sort of get out of the fashions and let it go. But Ms Keneally would know. Put it this way, if Sky News was only rating, after 6 o'clock at night, was only rating 5,000, it'd be out of business. People wouldn't advertise on it.
No, it's a joke. It's a joke. And I think the reason here that she didn't correct him too is, well, not just a reason, it's a phenomenon that the left tend to protect each other's errors or falsehoods or even lies. I'm not saying a lie in this case, but lies in order to preserve the tribal solidarity against their enemy. This is Christina Keneally showing a desperate weakness. I wouldn't trust her to correct people when they're telling an untruth that doesn't suit her cause. Gerard Henderson, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yes, I know maths is not my best topic. Jones was out by a factor of about 12 or 13, not including you wonderful viewers watching this on Win TV. parents always were cross with me for not putting in more effort on maths.